Hey, what's up, YouTube? Coming here today. It's been a long day. It is April 25th, 2018, and I've wanted to do this for a while. It's just something I just never truly got around to doing. Um, Me and my best friend, basically my brother, we had always talked about making a podcast or doing the YouTube thing, and I've actually made videos in the past on YouTube a while ago. Nothing really super consistent. Actually, I did a lot more of it when I was actually in college. Now it's just more of, do I even have the free time to sit down and just decompress about my day? I think that's kind of what it is. But I'm here because the most difficult thing I've realized in the life I live today is there's not always somebody I can necessarily go to truly vent. I mean, there's people there, you have family members, but sometimes you just want to vent and say everything that's on your mind and not really have anybody say anything back sometimes. Like, you ever just wake up and you're just getting ready for the day and you're just talking to yourself in your head. Especially when you hear somebody say, I've practiced this moment 100 times, thousands of times in my head, and it's like I've waited for this moment to happen. And usually when it happens, it does not go the way you planned. Sometimes it does, but most of the time it doesn't. It's just one of those. But for me, it's never really at the beginning of the day. It's usually at the end of the day. Um, as you all do not know, because I have not formally introduced myself, my name is Calvin. I am a 25-year-old black male special education teacher who's born and raised in Chicago. Um, I come from a family of Jamaicans, at least on my father's side of my family, 100% Jamaican. On my mother's side, pretty mixed up, but basically black, African American, if you want to be specific. But I was raised more with, I guess you could say, Jamaican values, family values. Um, the direct thing when it comes to me and I think about my life, I'm truly blessed to have had family that valued education. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and be like my entire family valued education. I can definitely say one side valued it more than the other, but that does not mean the other side did not care about my growth as a human and as a person. But one side did value education a lot more than the other. So there's things I learned from both sides of my family. I'm one of those people, not trying to toot my own horn, but I will say that I'm book smart but also street smart, which is something you truly need to be growing up in the environment I grew up in. Like, I consider myself an East Sider, and for those who aren't from Chicago, if you look at a map, you're like, how is there east side of Chicago if there's a lake? There's an east side of Chicago. There is an east side of Chicago. I've spent most of my life on the south side, but I consider myself an East Sider because though that's where I spent most of my influential years. That's where I essentially began that transition into being a teenager. And being a teenager growing up on the east side of Chicago in a heavily gang influenced neighborhood is a lot different than a lot of other places you could be growing up at the age of 10, 11, 12, 13. You see and hear a lot of things differently in comparison to somebody from a middle upper class suburb who will never witness or hear the things that you hear growing up in an environment such as mine. And I share that environment with a lot of other young men and women of color. The thing that I think about in my life and how I realized that me being who I am today is truly something special is I sit and I look back. One of my biggest motivations, because somebody always asks you, what was your motivation for becoming a teacher? Not just, specific content area like why sped, why bio, why math, why reading, I mean, why did you become a teacher? And sometimes you hear a lot of people that say the same things. But the thing I always say at the end of the day is it gives me the opportunity to be the man that I never had in my life. Now, I'm not saying I didn't have any men in my life that were positive, that were influential, that aren't still like my uncle practically raised me. But I'm gonna get to that in a second when I made that statement. But I mean purely from the school point of view. I grew up in Chicago public schools from kindergarten to my junior year of high school. Actually, no, let me take that back. I almost lied. Well, I kind of did lie. I can mix things up. At some point, I was in Catholic school, but at a very young age. It did not last long. Um, I was very behavioral when I was young. Let's just put it like that. I was behavioral. Um, that got me kicked out of Catholic school quick. Well, I didn't even get kicked out. It was just more of my family. My grandma in particular, she was just tired of paying for it if all I was going to do was get in trouble. It was never an intellectual thing or an academic thing, but behavior. It's like, well, yeah, Calvin's smart, Calvin's this, Calvin's that. But if we sit and find ourselves in this situation where he's in the principal's office almost once a week, then you just develop that reputation. You become that kid. And I became that kid. But what led to me being that kid, once again, that's something I'll hit on soon. So I strive and achieve to be that man, to be that influence, to be that person kids can look up to that I never had in the hallways of my school at any level. Elementary school, which, if we look at the statistics, I mean, we look at the numbers, it's like elementary schools are mostly comprised of uh, women educators. We know this. When you look at education in general, it is and I don't want to say I hate saying female, but I know some women who, if you refer to them as female, they will go off on you. That's why I'm hesitant to say female. But since this is my video, my audio recording that I'm doing the same video, but since this is my audio and I'm talking about things, female will be used. Um, it's a majority female dominated field. When we think teachers, you're most likely your first one of your first thoughts is going to be probably whoever your favorite teacher was. You probably will think about the teacher you hated the most, but there's a good chance that both of those teachers were likely women. Very good chance. Women are very nurturing. That's just the facts of the matter. Women are very nurturing. Now, I don't want to say women coddle children. Let me not get into that one, but there's a nurturing soul that you can only get from a woman, especially one that is a mother. Because female teachers truly treat their students as their children because they are. When your kid walks into our schools, we are responsible for their lives. And I'm not just talking about the kids I see every day in my classroom, the one that I personally talk to, the ones I personally know, but every kid in that school. If I see a student in some sort of trouble, even if I don't know his or her name, I'm helping them. And that's how it is for the vast majority of women who have taught us in our lives. I don't think women go into teaching because, oh, they think it's easy, this, that, or the other. It's just kind of like it's a natural talent. It's a natural talent. I don't want to say, oh, they're best suited. No, it's a natural talent. It's a natural talent. The same way we say, 9 times out of 10, most men are stronger than women. Well, 9 times out of 10, most women are way better teachers than most men. There's a level of sensitivity you need to have. You have to possess. There's a certain way of doing things. And I'm not saying men don't possess it. We all know individual teachers who are great, gender aside, men or women. We all know that. But what I mean is more of on a larger scale. Like, honest to God truth. Women are they naturally there's certain characteristics, certain traits you have to have that women possess that just straight up make women way better teachers. I am super unorganized. Just one of the many things I'm having to learn and work on. That simple. But you can meet a student teacher right now who's about to be fresh out of college, who is organized down to the alignment of the staples in the paper. Like, there is just, like, I can't explain it. And these are traits that make a great teacher. They truly do. So, me going into this profession, uh, choosing this career path to be that male that I never even had, going into lock arms with all of the other men and women who also decided to take on this calling in life. Like, that's just what I want to do. That's just kind of how I've always been. Well, I actually, like I said, I'm a special education teacher, but going into college, I was a history major who had the intention of being a history teacher. And I don't know, things just kind of changed. It was just kind of like, is this really what I want to do? Because me personally, as a teacher, I, I truly believe I can turn any subject in some sort of way. I'm gonna make students engaged. That's what I strive to do, is engagement. But I don't know. It was just something about history. That's like, do I want to be a history teacher because I loved watching History Channel? Do I actually truly want to do this? And I had to take a step back. In special education, I realized that was my calling more than anything. It was almost like a no-brainer. It's like it just happened. The thing that made me specifically choose SPED was, like I said, the fact that I'm a kid in today's world. In today's world, oh my, woo! I definitely would have most likely had all sorts of accommodations, this, that, and the other. And like, I don't even know how to explain it. I am that student in your classroom who academically I'm gifted. Behaviorally, I'm your worst nightmare. And you're sitting there trying to figure out, what in the hell do I do with him? I don't have ADHD. I don't have anything. Like, you're sitting just thinking like you just need anger management. But me being how I was growing up, purely was because I had started such a young life going through trauma. For I don't even know how to explain it, but deep down, I truly think I suffered PTSD in a sense at a very young age. But because that wasn't even something that was necessarily viewed as a norm, like when you think about it, PTSD was something that I feel like you got an uptick in cases and awareness for it after uh after Afghanistan, after Iraq. You know, that's when PTSD became a term that was just known. That was like I'm not saying that it hadn't I hadn't always been around, but after that war, after all these young men and women came home serving their country and they just weren't the same, that's when people were like, we got to do something about this. What is this called? We got people who are suicidal, who are no longer social, who completely have vanished from society. I was born in 1992. My father was murdered, killed on my grandma's doorstep. Even at that age, I understood something horrific had happened because whenever my grandmother or aunt or uncle described the amount of love my father had for me, like I was his right hand man. You couldn't catch my dad without me. Like I'm, under his arm like a football. Like I was his running buddy. And even at such a young age, to have that amount of love from somebody like that in your life, and then to understand that person's gone forever, is something you hold in you even right now. The only difference is I'm older, I can control myself, this, that, and the other, and I use those feelings to help me connect and understand with others. That kid that was growing up who was destroying classrooms, who was doing this, that, and the other. I don't even want to say I was cursing people out or anything like that, but I just threw these temper tantrums that were just insane. I was destroying classrooms and flipping tables, just all these things. And I never knew why. Why am I this angry? Why can't I regulate what's going on with me? But then in retrospect, when you're finally 18, 19, 20, you're in college, you know, and you're a special education major and you're reading something in a book and you're looking at this case study, that case study, and you're reading stuff that explains your entire childhood and your mind is blown. That's when I knew. I'm like, I am somebody who suffered a very traumatic childhood. I have a father who was killed. I have the same name as this man. I look just like him. Maybe a slightly lighter skinned version, but I look just like him. And I have no true memory of him. That haunts me to this day. That haunts me to this day. Then my mother never graduated high school. Her senior year, she was pregnant with me. And there was moments and times where, I felt so bad because it's like I was blaming myself. I was blaming myself. for my mom's life, the life she lived. Who knows where she could have been or what she would have done if she had not been pregnant and this, that, and the other. And like there's moments like I get so deep into thought about those things. I'm like, she was what, 17? He might have been what? He was older than her. And I ain't about to go into the legality of things because the whole 18 and older thing. But I mean, this is South Side of Chicago. Like if she's 17 and he 19, 20, people ain't calling the police and stuff like that. It was pretty consensual. Let's just put it like that. But, she's a high school senior. He had already graduated high school. It wasn't no huge age gap. It wasn't 5 years. It was 2, 3 year difference at the most. But my mom never finished school. She never went back. She never went back. She had kind of given up. My mom had a decent job. She was making good money. But then she got cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that job went away. And since she never had a high school diploma or a GED, by the time her cancer had, I guess, officially gone into remission, she couldn't go back out into the world and do anything. I'm 25 right now. Like I just said, my mom was 17 when she had me. You can do the math. You can do the math. We're talking about a 40-year-old something woman who is in this world. I mean, she's taking care of my little sister. My little sister is a freshman in high school right now. So, I mean, there's just so many differences. Like, there's just so many different little things. I'm 25, my little sister's 14, my mom's 40 something, and it's just so many different little chapters in life. I look back to how I grew up, how I was raised, and like I said, I am very thankful that I had family that valued education. I am very thankful that I had family that valued education that would never quit or give up on me because they refused to let my life go a certain way. The moment I remember filling out the FAFSA for the first time to go to school, to get money to be able to go to school, I remember it asked those questions about your parents. Like, I was essentially raised by my grandmother majority of my life, off and on between my grandmother and my mom, but my grandma for the majority. And, was asking about parents' situation, financial situation, and this, that, and other. And, you know, we got to break down and explain to the financial aid uh representative, not the financial aid representative, but the counselor at my school at the time. It's like the fact that I couldn't fill out that information. It was crazy. I have a father that's deceased. You got to come bring the death certificate and show proof of that. My mother, my mother was alive and well, but my mother didn't even want to give me her social to put on my FAFSA because for some reason at that moment she was more worried about it messing up her current situation. No, I don't want to give you my social. Like that was one of the most infuriating moments of my life is to sit on the phone with your mother as you're, doing college stuff. I'm doing college things. I'm trying to fund my future. And she didn't even want to give me her social. She wanted me to physically come all the way to her house just to get her social security number because she could not trust the situation. I don't want to give you it over the phone. I sit there and I think about moments like that. I think about moments like that. And then I go and look at the students I teach and talk to every day, and when they say, my mama don't care, my dad don't care, this, that, or well, for the few that have their fathers in their lives, but you hear way more, my mama don't care than anything. I hear that, and I'm like, at that moment, it ain't just a kid just talking stuff. Because I can believe when they say, my mama don't care. The craziest thing is, our mothers love us, but when your mother is a child and they're raising a child, I don't want to say this, but that's not a mother. You're growing up, you're being raised essentially by a much older sister. When I look at a lot of black men and women and how many of us have a similar story of our grandparent, and nine times out of 10, our grandmother being the one who raised us. I'm like, it's such a common thing. And of course, that's a whole nother conversation to go into why that's a common thing. Why is it this lack of men? Why this? Why that? That's a whole nother combo for another day. But when it comes to SPED, it's easy. It's real easy for me to say I became a teacher because I just wanted to be that male influence, that male role model, to be that man that I never had in my life in that classroom when I probably needed him. That's one thing. But why I became a special education teacher? Do you all realize how quickly my intro switched up? It got deep real quick. Because when it comes to special education, these a lot of our children's lives are just things we could never imagine, are things that a lot of times a lot of people can't relate to. I'm like, I knew that there's no way I had gone through all that I'd gone through in life just to not be able to help at least one other person. Now I have the pleasure and the opportunity to continuously help a lot of young men and women who come from that same exact background. Oh my, whew. I mean, I don't even want to get into, like, the one thing I want to stay away from is, you make, you do a podcast or you do a YouTube channel and you make the mistake of being very specific with the things you say, and then one person, this leads to this, and you actually figure out what or who they're talking to. So I ain't gonna do that. But just the stories. If I could truly tell the stories, if I could just tell the stories. I mean, man, I'll say one. I'll try to be as vague as possible. But I mean, I got students who I'm teaching, and we're talking about the kids about to age out. The kids about to age out, and they're in freshman level classes still. And there's those moments where that student is, you see the hard work and determination in their eyes. You see them do the work. And then next thing you know, that student's absent 5 days in a row. That student comes to school and he or she is like, man, I had to work. And then you find out from another teacher that, oh yeah, so and so, I mean, so and so's mom got another kid. It's about 8 of them. And it's like I'm sitting here getting on this student's case about some 30-point assignment, and I gotta take a step back and realize there's real life things going on with child, that child who has been forced to become an adult, that child that did not necessarily have all the correct influences in his or her life to try to keep him or her on the right path. Those obligations, those obligations, because for a lot of us, family means everything. We don't want to see our parents struggle. We don't want to see our siblings struggle. So we make certain choices and decisions in life that lead to certain outcomes. They lead to never being a high school graduate. They lead to being that 25, 30, even older person just trying to get a GED. That's what these things lead to. But we got teachers who also don't make things any better. We have teachers who work in schools that are in populations where you see things like this happen all the time. You notice that the school is either majority Latino or majority black. Low income is like 90%. It's a very rough neighborhood. Gang violence, practically, I don't even work in Chicago, but where I work, that's the demographic. It might as well be Chicago. It's a little mini Chicago. It's in my eyes, I'm so comfortable there, and I always tell people I'm really comfortable here purely because it reminds me of home. And that sounds very crazy. I feel like that sounds really crazy to some people because, like, wait. This reminds you of home? Where are you from? Oh, I'm from the south side of Chicago. I mean, where I live is probably worse than this. I would have probably traded places in a heartbeat. But, you know, I grew up where I grew up. But when you have a lot of adults around these students, you have a lot of adults who don't look like these students, who have never come close to living a type of life that these students live. You end up sending the wrong messages, you end up saying the wrong things, and it breaks these students. There's too many situations and scenarios of having students who have failed over and over again, who are already set on, I'm just going to get my GED. And I'm like, my mind is just blown. My mind is blown. I'm just going to get my GED. And just to make matters worse, you have some teachers that say that to them. That's appalling to me. Like, how is it okay in a convo to say to a black boy who, in my eyes, is crying out for help every day almost, how is that okay? And that's the difference. In my eyes, he's crying out for help, but in my colleague's eyes, he's just seen as a student that I don't want to deal with him anymore. He's just behavioral. Oh my God, he's getting on my nerves. Yeah, GED. I mean, dude, looking at your grades and looking at where you are and looking at your age, the GED, that's your best bet at this point, man. And these comments are made to these students, and that's crazy to me. That is crazy. If I'm gonna make a comment like that, I'm gonna at least help the student make that happen. Because to make a comment, yeah, you better off just getting your GED, going to enroll in some program, but also not even tell this student that, well, the GED is comprised of, pretty much freshman and sophomore year classes, the same ones that you keep failing. I mean, if this is your plan seriously, I want you to at least finish out strong. I want you to at least get these freshman classes done, get these sophomore classes done. By then, I mean, yeah, you might be 19, 18, 19 years old, you know, you're not going to want to be here anymore. We know that. But at least by having all that done, you could probably confidently go take the GED test and probably pass. And there you go. You'll have essentially caught up to where you should have been. But I'm going to tell a kid who keeps failing over and over to just get a GED. Go that route. Go become somebody else's problem. I couldn't do it. That's why I've chosen to be who I am and do what I do. Because I've been in a lot of different places. I've seen a lot of different things, and these children need it. These students need it, and I learn from them every day. There's always something new that I'm learning. There's always something new that I just didn't know before. That's my I'm a lifelong learner. Even if it may not be I'm learning this or that from a book, in my eyes, personal hands-on experience trumps a book. In my eyes. I know that sounds crazy, but personal hands-on experience trumps a book. If I have somebody who has lived something, who has gone through it time and time again, I'm probably going to seriously take that person's advice versus somebody who just read something in a book or read a study and, oh, my what I'm giving you was done on a study on students from a predominantly middle class neighborhood that may not necessarily have ever even been attempted with students from our population. But it says that these things will work. No, don't even hit me with that. Don't hit me with that. If there's one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to get better every day. I'm going to learn every day. I'm going to try to change a life every day. I'm going to keep somebody on the path that they should be on. There's things I'm trying to do, accomplish, achieve that's going to make those around me want to do the exact same. I remember saying in my interview, if I'm your weakest link, then you're doing something right. Because I don't value myself as somebody low on the totem pole. I might be low right now. I'm a rookie teacher. There's a lot for me to learn. I might be low on that list right now, but the thoughts and ideas and experiences I have, it'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. It will blow your mind. If I ever get the opportunity to teach a uh educational philosophy class or just something pertaining to enlightenment and things like that, oh my God, ooh, that will be, you will not be able to shut me up. I would be in there sitting there just talking, talking. Them students will hate me. But as long as they get the message by the end of each class, you know, enlightenment. That's something a lot of people need in their lives. They need enlightenment. They need to see things for the way they are and then want to work on either improving it or completely rehauling it or build something from scratch that will make things better than what they've been. But when we need these things to happen, I'm just a young black man from the south side of Chicago trying to live my life, trying to be the best me that I can be. I am just a young black male who needs that education. And that's why I feel that the education of an urban educator, that's just something that you gotta feel. You gotta feel that in your heart and feel that in your soul. If you want to be an educator from a background such as mine and many others, you have to be open to learning every day. You got to be open to criticisms. You have to be open to new ideas. You're going to go through some things. You are for sure. You're going to go through some things. But if you can come out at the end of the day with a smile on your face and be like, man, I'm doing something right. I don't regret any of this. That's when you know it was all worth it. It was definitely all worth it. Peace.